Sharing with school growth. And one of the privileges that we have and what we do in working with schools around the country is we get to talk to some very experienced and successful school heads. And they come from a variety of different backgrounds. And Barbara Daush is somebody that really every school head, I wish you had a chance to meet her and to learn from her wisdom and experience. She's been the head there at St. Agnes Academy and St. Dominic School for 22 years, and she's retiring at the end of this year, is going to be going to the University of Mississippi or Ole Miss to be involved in their development efforts there. But before she goes, we were able to work out, it took a little while to kind of work out all the details, but we found a way to get Barbara with us and to really tap into her wisdom, because I know that if you're in any role in school leadership, that you're really going to benefit from some of the history she's established there and some great success. She's been there a long time, and we know from experience that it does. School heads, that if to reach your level of greatness, we need heads in place a minimum of 8 years, and she's done it. She's been there. She's been through the thick and the thin. And so, Barbara, just thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your wisdom with us.
Well, thank you for asking. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely. All right, so you could go back 22 years, having no idea how to be a school head. What do you wish, and kind of reflecting back over those years, what do you wish that someone had told you, or what do you wish that you had known at that time, so that you would have been even more effective as a school head?
Well, I'll tell you first that I was very fortunate to have wonderful mentors along the way. And I actually had a 1-year interim head position at a previous school. So I had some experience in setting a budget and working through some difficult issues at that school. And then I had a wonderful mentor at Hutchinson School, Jack Stanford, now deceased. He was a wonderful, wonderful role model. So I was very fortunate. I really was. And so looking back to answer your question, I think that I was as prepared as I could have been. But I think that it's very important for school heads to have a mentor, to have someone they can talk to have someone who can say, is this crazy? Or what do you do about that? Or, and I think that that is very important for all of us school heads, to have someone upon whom we can dump a question and get a very honest answer.
That's a great point. So, because often as school heads, I have many people that are heads say, man, this is a lonely job.
Right. Oh, it is.
Having that mentor can be critical. Where would you look to find that type of a mentor?
Well, I don't know what exists in other cities. I can just say what happens in Memphis. We have a very, very involved Memphis Association of Independent Schools, and the school heads meet 5 times a year. And then we also have some special events where we'll meet socially, sometimes with our spouses. And so it allows us to know each other on a personal level. And I think that that has been critical through the years of my being here, working together, making sure if we ever were in conflict with a student or a teacher in recruiting, that we picked up the phone and talked to each other. We have understandings about admission procedures and things like that. So it's a very healthy citywide relationship. And I think that's really important, to have some sort of a camaraderie in your town.
That makes sense. All right. So to be the head for 22 years, obviously you've been through a variety of different versions of your board over that period of time. What suggestions or tips would you give to other schools as a mentor in fostering a healthy relationship with their boards?
Good question. I think you have to share the mission very openly and very honestly. So the mission of the school has to be the most important thing that you share. And you have to really believe in that mission, or I find that nothing else really falls together properly. Board members have a hard time understanding the difference between day-to-day operations and visionary, strategic decision-making. So the school head has to be brave enough and strategic enough with the board chair to set those kinds of parameters and to say from the very beginning, here's what we do and here's what we don't do. We've been very fortunate, I've been very fortunate here at St. Agnes to have very involved, but very hands-off board chairs through all the years. They've never been intrusive. And I think it's because we have open dialogue from the very beginning. And we talk about what's important, what do I do, what should you do. We went to several workshops together, NAIS, SAIS, things like that. Those are helpful little forums so that you can have conversations with people who do what you do.
Well, it's interesting that your board was so committed that they were willing to invest the time to go to that type of training.
Yeah, they were. They really were. And I was blessed to have all of that investment in them. They were fabulous. So I might be what you would call lucky, but it's been a treasure the whole time. And it really has. But I do believe it has to be a two-way street. You have to treat them with that respect too.
Right. And you mentioned that bravery, right? And do you mean that in the sense of kind of sometimes saying things that may feel risky, but being strong as a leader?
Absolutely. If you hold back and you have things that you worry about and you don't talk about them, then they'll just fester, just like they would with your spouse or with your children. So I think with a board chair, it's almost like a marriage in a way. And so you have to have that open dialogue and that common ground where you can talk freely with each other. And I've never had a problem with that. So
in 22 years, how many board chairs did you go through?
Let's see, 6. I think I'm on my 6th.
Okay.
So pretty good.
Average, 3 or 4, yeah. And we've seen some schools where the board chair is staying in place even longer to sustain that relationship. Do you advocate for a turnover more frequently like that?
You know what? It depends on what's going on at the school. One time we were in a capital campaign, and it would have been very disruptive, I think, if we had changed board chairs in the middle of that. So we chose to keep the same board chair for longer than would have been, quote, normal on the bylaws. So I think you've got to be flexible within those bylaws and say what is going on at the school and what is the least disruptive to the school so that you can attend to the health of the school first. So that's what we've done. Now I've had one board chair who served only 3 years. The other ones served more depending upon what we were doing. So
gotcha.
And then one actually became a board chair emerita, and she is still involved on the board when she wants to be. So that's a very, very good.
That's awesome. And now, so you mentioned about talking about board members. What have you done there to be intentional about adding members to your board? What is the process that you've used there to make sure you have people that are really bought into the mission and the expectations that you have for board members?
Well, we have open a conversation 3 times a year during board meetings where we try to bring a name forward and we say, what do you think about so-and-so? What do you think about so-and-so? And then we'll have a board member who will go have lunch maybe, or I will go with that board member to have lunch with that prospect. And that's one thing that we do. Other things that we do is we involve potential new board members on current committees. So they can be a non-board member and sit on a committee, development committee, or we usually don't do it in finance, but we have. And then education is a classic where you can involve them. And so that's sometimes how you can cultivate a future board member, is to put them on a committee. That has served us very well.
Oh, that's awesome. Very, very good. Okay. So we've talked about, some of those tips for our head, and as well as about the board. The other area that sometimes is stressful for the head is fundraising. Now, clearly you've raised a lot of money there at the school to accomplish. I mean, your campus is beautiful.
Thank you.
What is it? What are the things that, what are the skills, or what are the materials? What helped you become so effective in that role of engaging donors?
Interesting. That the way I started was actually very serendipitous. I got involved with an auction back in one of my jobs previous, and I was just one of those volunteer staff members who helped. So I just went with a couple of parents to go down the street and ask. We just knocked on doors and asked some, could you give us a gift certificate for this? And it was so fun. I thought, well, that is such a blast. It was so easy. All I did was ask for a gift certificate, and they said yes, and it was so easy. Well,
piece of cake, right? Fundraising is easy.
Well, so then when we got into campaigns, then I found that if you believe in your school and you believe in the mission of your school and you believe in what you're doing, it's really nothing other than just telling a story. And so if they say no, you're no worse off than what you were before. And if they say yes, you're, woo, that is so awesome.
Celebrate. Yes.
Yeah. So fundraising for me has become the FUN part of fundraising. I have never thought about it as being a chore or a problem. And I guess it's just because you start small, start with the auction, and then work into big things. But if you don't believe in what you're doing, you'll never be effective in fundraising.
So do you think that's a function of sort of your natural personality and DNA, or is there any material that you use to try to fine tune your fundraising expertise?
Interesting story. One of my previous heads, who didn't admire my talents very much, said that you'll never be very good at fundraising, Barbara. And,
oh no, he didn't.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, this was way back when. And so I thought, well, I'm very competitive. So I thought, I'll show you. And so when I went on to another job, I was determined that I would be very good at fundraising. So I went to several workshops. I went to some of the CASE, NACE things and things like that. And but I was fortunate, again, Jack Stanford was just one of those mentors. And we were in a campaign at Hutchinson when I was there. And I accompanied him on several calls. I attended some of the development committee meetings. And so I was introduced to it when it wasn't scary. And I think that it just, you have to pick and choose all the various and sundry opportunities for that professional development. And you'll eventually get really good at it if it comes naturally. I think some people don't find that as a natural thing. But
absolutely. So now you're moving into this new role. Tell us what you're going to be doing at Ole Miss.
Great question. I really don't know for sure. We have had a change in chancellors, and so the new chancellor just started a week ago. And I know that my responsibility will be to support him and his vision. So whatever that is, I hope that I can be of a lot of help for him. Again, Ole Miss is my alma mater, so I feel like I can tell the story very well. And with a little bit of time and training, I'm sure that I can make the transition to the higher ed. So.
Right, that makes sense. You're definitely bought into the mission there for sure. I have such a passion for it. Okay, so last question.
Sure.
Tell the name of the school. You have a double name, right? Which is very unusual. I'd love to hear that story about the school and sort of a little bit of the history there.
Yeah, St. Agnes Academy, St. Dominic School is the full name of the school now. Excuse me. In 1851, 6 Dominican sisters came down the Mississippi River on January the 1st, got off the flatboat.
Happy New Year!
Exactly right. Went to St. Peter Church, met with Father Grace, and had $242 in their pocket. Started St. Agnes Academy 1 month later. We've never closed our doors. We've never had any kind of challenge where we couldn't overcome it. So yellow fevers, the Civil War, whatever happened, the sisters stayed open. So St. Agnes stayed downtown for 100 years and then moved to this campus in 1951. Again, it was just all girls. And then 4 years later, the sisters allowed the board to open a boys' school on the same property. It was run independently for a while. And then back in the 70s, they came together as one family, and there has been one president and all of that since then. So we are one family, one community, and run by one president now. Sponsored by the Dominican Sisters still. But what a rich history. The oldest continuously operating school in West Tennessee.
How about that? Well, that's awesome. They've definitely thrived under your leadership, and we really appreciate what you have done to raise the caliber of independent education, particularly in Western Tennessee, but really across the Southeast and across the country. You have done a fantastic job there. Really admire you, and you're one of the role models that we point to and say, hey, if you can do it like Barbara, because she's got it right. So really admire that a lot. And we'll be praying that everything goes great for you there at Ole Miss, kind of going back home, and keep us posted on your progress, please.
I'll I'll do that, Scott. Thank you very much. I was honored to have been a part of this. So thank you.
Our pleasure. All right. Well, again, this is Scott Barron. Keep up the great work. Keep growing out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.